What is up, bros and broettes? I am Inkslasher, and today I'm going to try to get you to be a little bit better at Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Specifically today, we are going to be talking about the 5 best classes in the game. Now, part of this is personal opinion. These are my 5 favorite classes, but I think if you use any of these, you will excel with them. And also, since Christmas is just around the corner and a lot of people are going to be getting the game in the next couple of weeks, this video is to help you guys simply become better at the game, raise your kill-death ratio, and have some go-to classes right away. Now, as I mentioned before, these are my top 5 best classes. Your guns may be a little bit different, and I'll kind of mention a couple other guns as we go through here. Before we hop into the video, I just wanted to ask you guys if you enjoy this type of video. If tips and tricks are kind of your cup of tea and you want to see more videos like this one, just simply hit that like button and it'll show me that this is the kind of video you enjoy, and maybe I'll continue making more videos like this one. Now, before we hop into the top 5 weapons, I just wanted to let you guys know that later today at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be streaming over on Twitch. It's actually going to be my last live stream before Christmas, so if you want to hang out, possibly play some Black Ops 4 in an open lobby with me, my Twitch link will be the first link down in the description, and hopefully I see you there. But without further ado, let's hop into my top 5 classes in Black Ops 4. So to start things out today, we are going to start off with a class that is definitely the most unorthodox out of any that we'll talk about today. And it is a class set up with the Rampart 17. Now, this is a gun that when I first picked up Black Ops 4, I absolutely hated it, but the more I used it and the more attachments I unlocked for it, the better it got. The trick with this weapon is you need certain attachments, specifically high caliber 1 and high caliber 2. Without those two attachments, this gun is complete garbage. And you're going to notice throughout this video that high caliber 1 and high caliber 2, when available on weapons, should almost always be used. High caliber, in my opinion, is by far the best attachment in this game. But let's talk about the rest of the class setup and why I chose some other things. The second thing is the recon scope. Now, the reason why I'm using this on this weapon instead of a red dot, which I actually prefer, is that the recon scope actually reduces recoil. And one of the worst stats on the Rampart is the amount of recoil it has. So simply by using this recon scope, it helps me more manageably control that recoil. On top of that, I'm also going to be using grip to help mitigate that recoil. Then the final attachment we are using here is FMJ. Now, as far as FMJ goes on this weapon, you don't need to be using it if you know you're playing in a lobby where everyone's not using body armor. And in fact, the class does get a little bit better if you take it off and then put on something like Engineer Dead Silence. But I found myself running into a lot of people using body armor, and that would add 1 bullet to kill, which really screws up your time to kill. So I found that FMJ was really useful on here. But if you know you don't need to use it, then definitely get rid of that and throw on some more perks. Speaking of perks, the one perk that I am using on this class is Gung Ho. Now, as far as Gung Ho goes, you're going to see this perk a lot throughout all of my classes, and honestly, this is probably the best perk in the game. What it does is decrease your sprint out time, and if you don't know what sprint out time, it's the amount of time it takes for you to go from sprinting to actually shooting a weapon, and on most weapons, Gung Ho almost halves it, which means you are going to be able to shoot your enemies before they are able to shoot you. Well, at least if they're not using Gung Ho. Like I said, this perk you are going to see a lot today. Now, the last item in this class is Stim Shot, and Stim Shot we also need to talk about a little bit. So as far as Stim Shot goes, I use it on every single class. Honestly, I think it's the best piece of equipment. It allows you to heal faster, get in more gunfights, and play more aggressively. Personally, I'm an aggressive player, so Stim Shot is almost a must for me. However, if you aren't a super aggressive player, like sitting back a little more, another great piece of gear is Acoustic Sensor. The problem is, though, is they recently nerfed Acoustic Sensor, so it doesn't work as well as it used to. It's still a great piece of gear. I believe Stim Shot is a lot better. That's why I use it on my classes. But if you're not as aggressive as a player, Acoustic Sensor is another good option. However, on every single class you're going to see today, I personally use Stim Shot. So as far as this Rampart class, the reason why this one works is because with high caliber 1 and 2, the time to kill on the Rampart is actually one of the best in the game at almost all ranges, which makes it very viable to use in any situation. On top of that, with running the recon scope and grip, there's very little recoil, or at least very manageable recoil, which, like I said, just makes this a really competitive weapon that I can use on pretty much any map. Up next at number 4, we have the best SMG in the game, the Maddox. Now, before you say it, I know the Maddox isn't an SMG, it's an assault rifle. However, it actually outguns all of the SMGs in the game up close, so that is why I say it's the best SMG in the game. Now, as far as this class goes, it's a little bit different because, as far as I'm concerned, the Maddox doesn't have a lot of really good attachments to use, so it makes making a good class a little bit more difficult. Now, the first attachment that I use is an ELO. This is easily replaceable by a red dot. Personally, I don't like the iron sights on this gun, so that's why I use that. Now, the other 3 attachments, I got stock, Fast Mags 1, and Quick Draw 1. Now, you can replace stock with Quick Draw 2, but personally, I feel that this makes it a little bit better. I prefer strafing a lot more with this weapon, so that's why I choose stock over Quick Draw 2. That being said, Quick Draw 2 really does make it so you can aim down sights almost instantly, so it is also a really good attachment. Now, as far as the rest of the class, once again, I am using Stim Shot. As I said, that is going to be on every class today, simply because I like playing aggressively. My first perk is Engineer. This is my favorite first perk. Generally speaking, I either use this or Scavenger, depending on the weapon, but I find with this weapon, Engineer is good enough. I also use Gung Ho, as we talked about. That's a very, very strong perk, especially with this weapon, especially with playing aggressive. And finally, we have Dead Silence. Dead Silence for a couple of reasons. First of all, we can have those silent footsteps, and second of all, it counters Acoustic Sensor. As we talked about before, Acoustic Sensor is a very strong piece of gear, and a lot of people use it. So using that Dead Silence counters that, so you can then sneak up a little bit more on those players using Acoustic Sensor. So that's what I like to use with the Maddox, but the question is when do I use this class? And the answer is whenever I am on a map that I think most of my gunfights are going to be within 20 meters. The Maddox is good at short-range gunfights and only short-range gunfights. Anything over 20 meters, other assault rifles, tactical rifles, snipers, pretty much you name it, it'll beat you in most gunfights. Even some SMGs beat the Maddox at long-range gunfights. So, on maps like Morocco, Summit, Hacienda, Seaside, any map where I'm getting in mainly close-range gunfights, Maddox is almost always going to be my go-to weapon. But while we're talking about close-range gunfights, the next weapon we're going to look at here is the Damon 3XB. Now, the Damon is the new SMG in Black Ops 4, and it's a burst-action SMG. However, the burst delay is very minimal. And as far as this SMG goes, I honestly believe it is actually the best SMG in the game. However, you do need specific attachments, similar to what we said about the Rampart before. So as far as the big thing on this class, once again, it is High Caliber 1 and High Caliber 2. Without these two attachments, the Damon is an okay weapon, but as soon as you put these on, it is a really, really good weapon, especially if you're landing a lot of bullets in the upper chest or head. It can drop the bullets to kill as high as 2, which means you're looking at a 4 to 6 bullet kill, depending on the range, which is really good for an SMG in this game. And then the final attachment I'm using there is Hybrid Mag. So Hybrid Mags is, first of all, going to add more bullets into the magazine. So it's going to go from 35 bullets to 45 bullets. And on top of that, it's going to reduce your reload time by about 0.5 seconds. So really good attachment there. It's going to help both magazine size and reload speed. So those are the attachments I use. And quite honestly, these are the best attachments. I wouldn't stray from this at all. Some people say to use rapid fire, but honestly, the fire rate of this weapon is already 1,200 RPM. And rapid fire actually doesn't change the fire rate. It reduces the burst delay, which is already incredibly low on this weapon. So honestly, wouldn't stray from those attachments. Once again, using the stim shots with Gung Ho and Dead Silence. However, my first perk is different in this one. Instead of using Engineer, I'm going to use Scavenger. And the reason for that is because I find with this weapon, I just burn through ammo, and also I tend to stay alive a lot. So Scavenger really helps me go on those long streaks. So this is really the only weapon on this list where I think it's necessary. Some other weapons, if you're going on long streaks, it's nice to have Scavenger, but this weapon, I honestly think it's necessary. Now, similar to the Maddox, this is a weapon I generally only use on close-range maps. Once again, Seaside, Summit, Hacienda, all of those maps, this is a great opportunity to use this weapon. Any map where you're going to mostly be getting in long-range gunfights, something like Militia, this gun isn't going to work as well. It's still usable, but isn't going to work as well. The one other thing I have to say about this weapon is for a weapon that grip isn't actually an option. I know there's steady grip, but that doesn't help with your aim down sights recoil. there's no grip, its recoil is actually pretty low. You can pick people off at some long ranges. Your time to kill will just be a little bit worse because it's going to take more bullets to kill. So all in all, really good weapon, especially with the high caliber attachments. Up next, coming in at number 2, we've got my personal favorite class, and this is the Auger DMR. Now the thing with this weapon is it's a semi-automatic tactical rifle, which means every time you pull the trigger, a bullet will come out. It is not fully automatic, and honestly, this base weapon isn't great. I don't even like the normal scope on it, so once again, this one needs a lot of attachments to get better. But once again, high caliber 1 and high caliber 2 are available. As I mentioned earlier in this video, probably the best attachments in the game are the high caliber attachments. On top of that, I like to use a red dot. I just find that I'm more manageably able to control the recoil on this weapon when using a red dot over the base scope or any other type of sights. And I use FMJ. FMJ is actually important on this class simply because if you run into someone using body armor, if you're not using FMJ, it takes 1 extra bullet to kill. And with a weapon like the Auger with a slow rate of fire, that extra bullet is a really big deal and can mean the difference between life or death. So FMJ is actually pretty important. So 2 high calibers, FMJ, red dot is what I run. On top of that, the rest of the class is going to look really similar with stim shot, engineer, gung ho, and dead silence for the exact same reasons we talked about earlier in this video. Now personally, this is my favorite weapon in the game. It's the weapon I use the most, and I think it's because it takes a little bit of skill to use. If you don't hit your bullets, this gun is simply bad. You gotta hit your bullets, and you gotta be accurate, especially with the high caliber, to hit in that upper chest. But if you do so, the time to kill on this gun is beastly, and that is why I love this weapon, especially with this class. And coming in at number 1, you guessed it, you knew it was gonna be here, is the Titan. Now honestly, I thought they were gonna nerf this gun yesterday. That's why I waited to put out this video. And I don't think they're going to nerf it next Tuesday because that's Christmas, so this should still be the best class in the game for at least 2 weeks. So the weapon we're using here is of course the Titan. It's an LMG, and the reason why this weapon is so good is because without grip or anything to help the recoil, it essentially has no recoil. You can snipe someone across the map with like 3 to 4 bullets. It's really good. So the big question is, what are the best attachments to use in probably the best gun in the game? And the ones that I use are red dot, because simply I don't like the iron sights, FMJ to counteract anyone using body armor, quick draw, and extended mags. Now you can replace extended mags with stock, but honestly the stock on the Titan doesn't make a huge difference. It's a 19% difference, which honestly doesn't feel that different. Quick draw is however important, as you can snap onto targets a lot faster. Now the magic with the Titan is 2 things. Like I said, first of all, there is basically no recoil, and if Treyarch, you're wondering how to properly nerf this gun, simply add a bunch of recoil, because right now this thing is a laser beam. The other reason why it's really good is a lot of the other stats are almost like SMGs. The hip spread is really small. On top of that, you move really well with it. So something like quick draw is important because you are able to play aggressive with this gun. So on top of what we are already using, it's going to be stim shot, engineer, gung ho, and dead silence. The same class that we've been using with pretty much everything else, just with a different weapon and a beastly class setup. Honestly, this gun is ridiculous. It's overpowered, and on top of that, if you want to take out some score streaks, just throw on FMJ2 and you can kill a strike team helicopter in 14 bullets. Nope, I'm not kidding, 14 bullets. So guys, those are my top 5 classes in Black Ops 4. Honestly, I think all of these are beastly, and if you use any of them, it'll instantly help out your kill death. So hopefully I was able to help you a little bit, and if you did, I would really appreciate it if you could hit that like button, or if you simply enjoyed the video, I'd love it if you could hit that like button. On top of that, if you disagree with me or have anything to add to any of the classes, feel free to let me know what you think down in the comments below, or you can even let me know which one of these is your favorite class. On top of that, guys, if you like what you see here and want to stay up to date on all my videos, the best way to do so is make sure you hit that subscribe button and have notifications turned on. But guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace out.